Hello and welcome back to DevDive. In today's episode of Deep Dive into Hibernate and JPA series, we're going to talk about entity types mapping and more precisely the configuration of key generators of an ID. We'll explore all available strategies and we will create our own generators. Alright, let's dive in right after the intro video. As you can see, the @id annotation is required to mark the identifier property of an entity class. Without the generated value next to it, the JPA provider assumes that we will take care of creating and assigning an identifier value before saving the instance. We call this application assigned identifier. Usually, we want the system to generate a primary key value when you save an entity instance. You write a generated value annotation next to the @id. JPA offers several value generation strategies with the javax.persistence.generation type enum. So let's explore all of the available options. So let's start by the identity generation strategy. In order to understand what's happening under the hood, let's create an item object and persist it in the database. Okay, let's name our item Lamborghini and call our entity manager to save it. And let's run our app. Okay, so we're good. As you can see, one table is created, and if we want to get more details about the attributes, let's show fields from the item table. Basically, what identity strategy actually do is creating auto-incremented primary key column that automatically generates a numeric value on insert in the database. The next ID generation strategy mapping is the table generation type, and to see what it does, let's use the previous example with the item Lamborghini. So let's run our app. To have these extra logs, I added the Hibernate show SQL property and set it to true. And as you can see, first, the Hibernate starts by dropping tables because I changed the Hibernate DDL auto property to create. And basically, the table generation type will create a Hibernate sequences table to store and manage the sequential numbers, and it creates default sequence default starting with 0. And when we persist our item, Hibernate will first query the sequence table for the current value associated with the specified sequence name, and then it will increment this current value by the allocation size if specified and uses it as the generated primary key value for the entity. And finally, it will update the sequence table with the new current value. So to see this in action, let's execute a show tables query, and as you can see, 2 tables were created and Lamborghini item was added. The next generation type we will cover is the sequence type. This generation type is so special because it depends on the DBMS, and since we're using a MySQL database, we will see a variation because the basic behavior is to create a sequence, but this feature isn't supported by the MySQL database. So Hibernate will create a table and use it as a sequence, just like the table generation type, as you can see. The last Hibernate strategy we're gonna cover is the auto. Actually, whenever we use it, Hibernate selects the generation type strategy based on the Hibernate dialect. In the version 5, Hibernate used the generation type table, but in the new version 6 we're using, it uses the sequence strategy, as you can see. So in the logs, we can see the item sec table created to generate primary keys, just like the previous example with the generation type sequence. So that's it for this video. We saw the different mapping strategies offered by JPA. In the next video, we'll cover the generators and how can we customize the generators, and we will do that independently from our entity classes. Thank you guys for watching. Stay tuned for the next video and have a good one.